Good evening, good afternoon, where you're joining. So it is my pleasure to introduce Anil. Anil is the Vice President IT at Ricoh. And I think Anil has been over 20 years that you've been in this role. So he joined as a senior manager in 2002. And over the 20 years have taken up the role of end-to-end responsibility for the entire IT. And I think part of that is, looking at the IT strategy, improving agility, productivity, and looking at some of the emerging technologies to ensure that Ricoh stays at the cutting edge. So really appreciate, Anil, you spending time with us. It is a great, valuable time, and really appreciate that. We have seen, within Ricoh and other places, some of the challenges that the organizations are facing, moving from legacy on-prem applications, moving on to newer, emerging, and digital technologies, to improve their positioning in the market, driving revenue, improving productivity and agility. And you have been on this path for some time. You have led this path for some time. So it'll be a great to hear from you, to learn from you. Yeah. So truly appreciate, team. My request is this is I would say very valuable spend of 1 hour 15 minutes. So please let's make the best use of all the 20 years of Anil distilled. So thanks a lot. Vidya, over to you. Please, if you can take it.
Yeah, Anil, it's really awesome to be talking to you again. Before we start this, would you like to kick it off, giving a bit of a context of how you have viewed a modern IT across the several years of your role in leading IT transformation?
So, Kamal, thank you so much, and it's a pleasure always to speak with you. Vidya, it's so good to speak with you as well. So, a little bit of a background and a context to for what we do as a company, as an organization. Ricoh is an information management company. It's a digital services company. And around the world, it's a global organization. Around the world, we serve about 1.4 million businesses, including about 84 to 85% of Fortune 500. So our main mission is to really, harness the power of information management and to bring people, process, and technology together. So that's the space Ricoh works with. Over the last, several years, I think, as the whole conversation is around systems and digital transformation. I think what we've seen is there's a lot of need for revisiting your applications, revisiting your systems for because the businesses are pivoting and the whole landscape is pivoting, the technology is pivoting. So obviously what is happening here is the legacy systems and the systems that we currently have in place needs a revisit as well. And over the last 20 years, I've seen us, go from several, various stages of technology with evolution. And finally, now we are, at a stage wherein most of the conversations is around cloud and cloud journeys. About 5 years or 6 years back, it was around engineered systems. Around a few more years back, it was around client server systems. So over a period of time, we've seen several of those stages, and it's really important to note that most of the organizations have to stay in touch or stay in tune and stay current with the technology changes if they want to pivot their businesses as per the market demands.
Yeah, thanks, Anil. I think that's a very interesting perspective. You have seen so many waves of so-called modernization, right? And when I look back at what you just said, Ricoh must have been one of the early adopters of what was at that time considered to be a very modern architecture and moving from maybe mainframes into modern ERPs and such. And now suddenly it's been 20 years and that's considered legacy. So we are always on, a legacy modernization kind of an initiative, like you just said. Why is it? Such a hot topic, and why is it always in contention? I think it would be interesting to hear your views, because you've been through so many waves of such modernization, as you put it.
Yeah. So, see, I mean, at the heart of it, legacy systems are extremely difficult to replace. Mostly because you'll find legacy systems, and I'm sure everybody on the call agrees with me based on their interaction with the customers and clients as well, that legacy systems embed themselves in critical business processes, and the risk of changing the status quo may be too high if you consider the possibility of losing key data, corruption of data. So I think the risk is very high. And I think that's what's driving a lot of inertia around looking at legacy systems from a replacement standpoint. I think it's a continuous process, though. It is you will start and then you'll find yourself never finishing, because there's always the next 3 years or the next 5 years wait. But it's extremely important because you have to reduce the complexity, to reduce the costs. Make sure that data is consistent, and make sure that systems are speaking with each other. One of the biggest challenges is that you lose the ability for systems to integrate with the other systems. So you may be onboarding the best of client experience systems or CX systems, but if it's not able to talk to your core, back office systems, then that becomes a challenge. So that's why it's very important, and that's the reason why it's a very hot topic as well. So.
Teeing off something that you just said earlier, when you said everything is about cloud, when we began this journey, we've all been in an era where legacy modernization really meant portfolio optimization with a little bit of some of the legacy initiatives thrown in. Today, a lot of the conversation is around cloud and legacy modernization. What is your view on this? How do you see it?
Like you said, I mean, we've been through this, through various stages. I tend to view legacy modernization as a little bit different than simply migration to cloud. I think, in my opinion, and I'm sure that I'll have many supporters to this, is that when I try to look at what's legacy modernization, I firstly, try to understand what is driving the modernization initiative. Because, is it a business imperative, or is it a technology imperative? And the approaches for modernization, whether you go to cloud or whether you do something else, and I'll talk about the something else in a minute as well, may be depending on the driver. Contrary to the popular belief, you can very well have a legacy system on the cloud. You can ring fence it. You can go bare metal, and you can have that. If the modernization, however, is being driven by a business imperative, such as opening a new line of business, maybe an acquisition, a change in your go-to-market strategies. In that case, flexibility, speed, and being nimble is the key driver, and cloud will offer you those. So cloud would be an obvious choice. However, if the driver is technology, primarily around security, software deprecation, supportability of your software, availability of skilled resources, then there are several other approaches outside of cloud. I mean, you can use encapsulation. You ring fence your existing system to make sure that it is encapsulated and able to interact with other systems. You can rehost the system. You can re-platform the systems without changing the code. You can refactor. So these are all different types of modernizations that is possible, not simply just moving to cloud. And I think we have to take a very balanced view of it, of really starting with understanding what is the driver. Are you trying to address risk, and are you trying to stay current from a security standpoint? I mean, are you or is it really that you're changing your business model, and then you will make a choice either way, or at least that's how I would make a choice either way.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think that's a very that's so true, right? Like, even when we look at modernization and cloud transformation, the art treatment is not one size fits all. It has to be relevant to a certain architecture. It has to be relevant to business goals. So that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, I think there are architectural choices available, like encapsulation, to extend the life of your legacy investments, and that makes sense. But I want to just take one step back and maybe look at it with a slightly different angle. Um, Legacy systems, or be it mainframes or be it some of these old world ERP systems, they have been powering businesses for such a long time. They are the ones who actually brought the first revolution of IT, and that is how it came into being. So are they not useful anymore? Because the modernization as an initiative, I don't think it's anything to be sneezed at, because it involves a lot of investment. There's a lot of funding that you have to find. There is also a lot of senior management bandwidth that has to go into such modernization initiatives. So it makes me wonder, why is staying with a legacy system, absolutely out of bounds? And let's say the answer is yes to that. What is driving it? Is it because we can no longer find people who want to invest in learning those skills, or is it security considerations that you just mentioned? So would you give some color to it from as a person who's leading such initiatives, and also finding funding and the time for it?
Yeah, I mean, see, you bring up an interesting point, mainly because what is the cost associated with staying status quo, and why should you not stay status quo? I mean, a lot of large banks, airline industry, they will not touch their core, legacy applications. However, I think at a very macro level, if you really take a look at all industries, they all have to adapt to new business environments. Like, say for example, if you're taking a look at the automobile industry, traditionally, manufactured cars, the value is embedded in the product that they are manufacturing, but now they're shifting away from it, and they're more focused on offering mobility services as compared to, vehicles, partnership with driving apps, partnership with car rental companies. They're all shifting their focus to how can we offer a solution for mobility outside of simply manufacturing a car. So that's a business drive, and that's a market change that they are going through. We are facing the same headwinds, and print industries as such are more focused on information management. When I introduced Ricoh on this call itself, I introduced us as an information management company because that's what we do. And rewind about several years back, and mostly the focus was on manufacturing print devices, multifunctional printers. Finance organizations, if you really take a look at that, they are more focused on digital enablement of customers, as compared to several years ago, wherein they were mainly custodians of customers' cash. Obviously, if nothing changes from a business standpoint, then the focus of most organizations as well as the teams are to really, focused on keeping the lights on and making sure that they have a secure system and they have supportability from the product vendors and the vendor partners. I mean, but in most cases, what is happening is that a legacy application, tends to inhibit agility. So I view it as a boat anchor, which stops the organizations from moving ahead, and but it cannot be a broad brush sweep. I mean, the approach towards modernization has to be measured and has to be looked at through business objectives. So just migrating from a legacy application to something which is more modern for the sake of being modern is not necessarily going to be very successful. And then just migrating to cloud for the sake of migrating to cloud is not going to be very successful. It's going to be a very expensive proposition. So I think most organizations, including Ricoh, I mean, what we are doing is we are really taking a look at which ones need the change as such. So mainly, customer engagement platforms come into view, come to the front, and mobility applications. You know, we have to look at that. So we have to really take a look at all of these challenges as a whole, and then drive the actions around legacy modernization as such.
Thank you for that, Anil. That's you've always pushed us to do more, and it's been a pleasure working with you all these years.